Good morning, everyone. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Carter and I'm from the ICB. Today you are here to talk to us about software and tech. Well, we're here to talk to you really. To really guide us through the world of software for bookkeepers is Lara Manton. Good morning, Lara.
Morning, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm just going to wait for everybody to start joining us and say good morning to us. We'd like to know who's there. Good morning, Michal. So just a bit of bookkeeping, not bookkeeping, just a bit of housekeeping for the day, that we're recording this. And also Lara has agreed to take questions at the end as well. So if you do have questions, please leave them in the chat or the Q&A, and then we'll come back on and we'll go through them at the end. And we'll make sure that we send a recording out to everybody after the event as well. So Lara, when I was at the Digital Accountancy Show this week, the Right Honourable Gary Turner was there. And he was saying about the volume of apps still to come. You know, the development of software hasn't slowed down at all, and we're still seeing this kind of massive growth, despite this kind of sometimes it seems to go through cycles that some get acquired and by the bigger firms and things like that. So this is really interesting for you to talk through what you use. So I'm going to leave you to it, but I know you've got different categories and things like that.
Yeah, so I think that's right. What Gary has said. I think the last sort of, well, I've been around 13 years now, has really changed. The apps have changed. Everything's kind of moved on quite quickly. But I think we are seeing now some big names being challenged perhaps in the industry. So that's really interesting to see. I know obviously from Fab and DAS and then Accountex coming up, there's lots of people out there that are looking at their software stacks at the moment. We're obviously at the start of a new tax year as well. So I was going to go through a little bit of what I do on my, what I use in my practice, and also what kind of bits I've looked at, and I've broken it down into a couple of sections. So I'm going to start with the practice management and internal side of things. And I think there's obviously some really big names coming up in this one, and obviously the biggest of those being Client Engager at the moment. Now, people always say, why do you need a practice management software, or what size do I need to be to need a practice management software? And I'd always say, get it in place before you think you need it, because it's a heck of a lot of work to set it up. It's really worth it once you have set it up, but it can be really a bit tricky and a bit kind of bit time consuming to set it up, to fiddle around, to make it work for you. And that's the biggest thing on any of these apps, is if you try them for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, I'd probably say give them the 30-day free trial at least. And if they don't work for you, that is absolutely fine. There's a lot of people out there that are saying you have to use this app. I'm going to recommend apps to you, but I'm not going to say you have to use it, because if it doesn't work for you and your practice, that is absolutely fine. So that would be my first piece of advice when you're thinking about any apps. If you hate an app, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for your brain, despite the fact that everyone in the world's telling you that it's the most brilliant thing, don't struggle with it, because actually it won't be efficient for you. It won't work for you and your clients if you're struggling with it. If you love something that no one's ever heard of, brilliant. Go for that instead if it really works for you. So practice management apps, you've got a range. And what I would say is find ones that you can customize to your practice. Now, a lot of you know that I don't do tax and I don't do payroll. So I've looked at things like Bright Manager in the past, but it's very compliance and deadline related. Now, I don't do confirmation statements. I don't do payroll. I don't do, I do VAT, I do up to trial balance, but I don't do things that have a lot of deadlines in terms of those set deadlines by HMRC. A lot more of it is internal deadlines. So I've always looked for a system that I can customize to my needs. And I think that's one of the most important things, is finding that ability to find the system and say, right, okay, this one is what really works for me and the way my practice is at the moment and the way that I work and the way I work with my clients. So look for something that's customizable. And that's where things like Client Engager are really good. You've got your custom fields, your custom forms, all those kind of things. Also, look at what else you're going to connect it up to. So what are you using for your AML checks? Obviously, we've got the ICB portal and we've got AML online, but what are you doing to actually gather that information? Where are you storing that information? You might be doing your risk assessments on ICB, but where are you storing all the rest of your things, your expiry dates on documents, all these kind of things. So make sure that you've got somewhere that you can put as much information in as possible that's going to help you run your practice. So you've obviously got Bright Manager, as I say, that works if you're doing a lot of accounting clients use it. Obviously, it used to be Accountancy Manager. You've got Centre and Iris Elements, which is obviously Centre's been bought by Iris and moved across to Iris Elements. You've got things like Asana and Trello. If you want something that's going to give you a little bit of practice management support, but you're not actually ready to kind of go all in and go for a paid version, and you don't have a team and you just need to be able to see everything on a spreadsheet on something else, I would say look at something like Asana or Trello, obviously free versions, and then get a grip and feel what you need. And then if you need to go on, okay, build up to a practice management suite. There's some other ones coming in the market at the moment. I know Cone is they're starting with a proposal software, but they're also going to be building or they're rolling out a practice management software side of things as well. So that's the other thing. What do you need? What are you using for your pricing? Because it's great to have as many things in one place as possible when you're running your practice. People call it destacking. It's using the right apps for you, but so you're not spending your life swapping between tabs. So then, as I say, you've got your pricing side of things as well. Client Engager does some really good pricing on it. You've obviously got Ignition as well on that side that does some practice management pricing. And you've also got things like Carbon and Pixie as well from the practice management side of things, for all of which can be tweaked and set up. Obviously, Carbon is designed for slightly bigger accountancy firms and kind of higher price points as well. So look at what your client numbers are. Look at, is it you? Have you got a team? What works best on the pricing strategy? What works best for you and your team, and communicating with your clients. So if you've got a pricing strategy and you're not doing it per hour, or you're doing a mix of things and you're doing fixed fees, obviously Go Proposal was the big one in the market. And then with the Sage acquisition, there's been a few issues. And also, while it does the letter of engagements and a few other bits, I know obviously Client Engager is building that in, and you've obviously got your AML, you've got a draft letter of engagement that you can tweak on the ICB portal if you're an ICB member. So there's some documents out there that you can use. And then you can kind of go from there and say, right, okay, well, letters of engagement, how much time does it take? How many do I issue? Proposals, how many of those do I issue? Bright Propose Bright has a proposal system as well, which is great if you're using Bright Manager, use Bright Propose, but you can use it as a standalone. As I say, you've got Go Proposal with all your transaction-based pricing and your value pricing if you want to go for that. But there are, again, some new ones on the market there. A new one that's coming in from the founders of Xavier Analytics is Socket. So Socket will be, they're launching at the moment. I'm doing a bit of beta testing for them behind the scenes, and it works on a very similar way to Go Proposal, again, but you have a bit more flexibility around it. So I would say if you're doing transaction-based pricing and you can fit it in your practice management suite, or you're doing hourly pricing, whatever you're pricing, and you've got a practice management suite that you feel comfortable with pricing module, I would say go for that. But if you've got something, so for example, for me, I do some retainer-based, I did some consultancy-based work. So I need a little bit more flexibility on being able to create proposals, not just for bookkeeping and transactional and value based, but more project stuff. So that's where I'm sort of playing around with Socket at the moment, and that looks really interesting for a bit more flexibility. But again, it's about having that information to kind of, if you're using a pricing tool, it's about having all that information in one place that you can look at, that you can analyze, that you make sure you're pricing the right way, you're not underpricing, you've not got too much scope creep. If your prices are increasing, for example, or if you're selling on software at cost, then obviously as they increase, you need to increase those to all your clients. And equally, just doing some analysis of that to make sure you are balancing up what your clients need and what their budgets are with what you're offering, and making sure you're not underpricing yourself. So that's where proposal and practice management work really well together, because you're looking at, right, okay, what am I doing for this client? What sort of tasks am I doing? Who are they similar to? What's going on? What are their volume of transactions, and all those kind of things that all fit together to kind of help you internally. And then, as I say, you've got those internal tools as well. So what are you using for your AML side of things? I've been using Zama since probably about 18 months. So I had it connected up to Center when I was using Center, and obviously it connects up to Client Engager as well. So just having everything in one place that you can check and you can look through, and you can make sure you've got all your documents and you know all the expiry dates, and you can see that they've been checked against other places if you wish to do that. You've got your proof of address, all those kind of things that are in there. You've obviously also got things like Verify and Third Fort. I know Verify connects up to Bright Manager, and then the Go Proposal AML is run by Third Fort. So you've got options out there for getting those documents quickly and easily from your clients, because it's about making the onboarding process as simple for them and you. So first step of that is onboarding, getting them involved, getting them on the system. So you're looking at things like your AML checks if you want to do them. And then it's about what you are, how do you communicate with them? So good one out there, if you don't want a second phone, or you don't have a second number, is and you want clients WhatsApp you and message you, but you don't want them on your personal number, is Client Window. So Client Window works as kind of a business WhatsApp system, but it has a holding inbox. You can have different conversations with different people. So you can have clients on different message threads. So if you have a VAT conversation and it only wants to go to the directors, or you have a payroll conversation and it needs to go to the HR manager, you can have different threads and different ways of communicating, but it's managed via an app, via a business WhatsApp number. But you can also give team members access to it, and choose which conversations they have access to as well. So my VA has access to just the like holding inbox thing. So if I get any messages where people message me via Facebook or the website, they can respond to that. But for sensitive client information, they don't have access to those. So there's, again, it's about working with how you want to work with clients. You've obviously got your emails, whether you're a Microsoft person or a Google person, you've obviously got emails and those kind of things, but it's about working with clients and communicating with them in the best way possible, that's going to enable you to get the information off them and then feel at home as well. So you've got communication tools, you've got password managers, which are a must, I would say. I don't know how I would get by with mine. I'm quite good at remembering things. But when you've got 20, 25 different logins for different clients on the same portal, or different portals, or whatever, it's always mine that I can remember all my clients' ones. It's remembering what my ones are at the end of the day. So you've obviously got things like 1Password, and again, obviously you've got your stored passwords if you're on phones and various other things, but you've got the next level of them. And from a cope perspective as well, your continuity of practice, with some of them, they can have emergency contacts. So, for example, LastPass used to do this, that you can have, if you've got the paid versions of them, you can set up if a protocol whereby someone has access to it, in that they say, I need access to so and so. So your cope person would say, I need access, and you have a set amount of time to respond to that. So if I don't respond for 48 hours or 72 hours or whatever you say, so if they do it and they don't need access, I can say, no, it's okay, I'm here, I can do it. But if you do it and you don't respond, so in an emergency situation, they then get access to your account with all of your passwords, or you choose which bits they want. So you can do it for a spouse or a partner, or again, for your continuity of practice partner or your virtual assistant in my case. So there's various people that they can have access to that in an emergency, to get that sensitive, those passwords, to be able to continue on with that. And I think that's really helpful in scenarios where, for example, this week, unfortunately, a partnership, a couple of a client of mine, and the wife's died, and the husband can't get access to one of their business bank accounts and is having an absolute nightmare of a time. So it's worth having something where you've got all your logins stored, or you've got all your information stored that's secure, but can be accessed in case of an emergency. So you've got that side of things, and then you've got your add-on tools again from those. One of the other ones that I use is a system called Airpa, and basically it's about having everything in one place. So from Airpa, I can log in to everything I need at a click of a button. So I've got tiles with all of my different information. And also it then kind of connects up to, it looks at all the information across various places. So it says to me, right, okay, on Companies House, this client has this registered address. On their Xero file, it has this registered address. So it's great for where clients have moved, or clients have changed something, and you've updated it in everywhere, but you've forgotten somewhere. So you can have a look and say, right, okay, I've got to actually change that on their Xero. And look at their various things about that. So there's different things. It also does, you can do some capacity tracking in it. You can run dashboards on it. You can look at billing. You can look at deadlines. So it pulls in through other things from Companies House, obviously confirmation statement and deadlines, but you can sort of set it up to do various things and kind of give you a bit more of an add-on than just the practice management side of things, a bit more kind of, you can also connect it up to Dropbox, Google, Outlook, etc., and have a look at where, so if you search for something, you can search across all of your systems at once, which is really helpful. I know some of those of you that might be on a Mac, I know it has ability to do a little bit of that, but if you've got different storage and different places, then again, being able to search for something across all of your client base is really helpful. So that one's quite a nice one, and they're bringing out quite a bit. They're rolling out some new features all the time. And then also, we've got all this data in whatever your accounting software is, and how are you kind of checking and keeping an eye on it? So there were two accreditation reports that came out in this month's newsletter. One was Expert and one was Xenon, and I did the Xenon one. And I've seen Michelle on here, so I think she did the Expert one. So are you looking at your client data? And I call this a practice tool because it is kind of client facing, but it isn't. There's some extra tools in it as well that are kind of more internal facing. So you're looking at what's in the system, if you're taking on a new client, what are the issues? Does everything look clean? Do they know what's going on? Does the VAT coding look right? Have you got a non-VAT registered client with a whole heap of stuff in their VAT account? Have they posted 300 things to the general expenses code? Have you got cars and motor expenses and fuel in your asset accounts? Those kind of things. So that's where it's really good. But equally, again, it's got a notifications. So things like your is a client reaching the VAT threshold turnover, the turnover for VAT. And you need to look at registration, or do they look like their pattern's going to get them there? You can also use it to measure transaction activity. And if you're using pricing based on transactional bands, you can add that information into Xenon, and it will kind of flag up where you're above or below pricing. So if you're reviewing pricing on a regular basis, you can actually see and color code and see your transactions. Or you can also just export it to CSV and kind of play around with it and work out where your clients need to be from a pricing perspective as well. So I call that a practice management tool, because as much as the client can have access to it, for Xenon, I don't give them access to it unless there's certain tools in there that I think would be really useful. So it does have some sales tracking, some dashboards around liabilities and those kind of things. So if a client's interested in that, I will give them access, but a lot of the time I use it internally, and it's just another set of eyes for me on the data assurance side of things. And again, the other thing is time tracking. A lot of the practice management suites do have some form of time tracking. I know Client Engagers just rolled theirs out. I price on a value basis, on a transaction basis, but I still track my time, partly to kind of make sure that I'm not on scope creep and there's not things coming in there, and I am pricing quite efficiently and in the right way. I have a little thing, it's an 8-sided tool. It's called Timula, and you flip it round every time you want to, every time you change tasks, and you set that up. But there's Toggle, Harvest, Clockify, Prima, or as I say, there's other things in your practice management suite, some of which are free. See if they're in your practice management suite, hopefully free. But there's options as well there for you. And again, if you're just starting out, or if you are doing hourly billing, make sure you're tracking your time, just to give you, even if you're on transactional based pricing, just to give you an idea of where you are with your pricing, and make sure everything's kind of fitting in together. And obviously the idea is all of these things pull in or pull out of or connect up with whatever you're using as your main accounting suite. You probably know that I am a Xero only practice, or 99% Xero. I tried QuickBooks, didn't work for me. I used to do Sage, obviously. Started 13 years ago when we did computerized exams, a separate computerized exam, and that was obviously Sage, and started on Sage. But it's about understanding what your client needs. So if they've got a NatWest account and they're a freelancer, free agent, all day long. Do they need, if they don't need multi-currency sports, if they don't need customized reporting, free agent is brilliant. Are they a landlord and they only need the rental side of things? Hammock's a great one. So it depends on what your client needs. Nomi is another one out there that can be really good for year-end accounts, that just small ones that need year-end. You've obviously got things like the ones that used to be around and still are decent for some of them, things like VT and a few others. And I've even used something called Accounts Portal in the past, which quite a few people probably have never heard of. But there's a lot out there, and it's just, again, what works for you and your clients. So if you're just starting out and you're not sure what main accounting software you want to use, go and have a look and see have a play around with the demo accounts and see which one fits you best. I know people that are more than happy to use all of them. I don't, because I would spend way too much time trying to find what I needed in each one, and keeping up with all the updates and keeping up with everything that's going on. And that would take away from the time and energy that I'm spending with my clients. So that's why I've chosen to be a predominantly Xero practice. So again, this comes back to there's no right or wrong way to do this. It is all about what works for you, what works for your clients. I had a conversation with a bookkeeper this week, or accounting practice and bookkeeper this week, that's considering building something because they've seen a niche that doesn't have a specific accounting software in there. Brilliant. I really hope them, well, wish them all the best, and I think they've got a great idea. But again, for the time being, I'm not going to go quite that far. Just work out what works for you and your clients. And if you can cope with using everything, or you've got a bigger team and you can have one person using QuickBooks, one person using Xero, brilliant. But just, or even if you want a niche in a specific industry and they have a specific piece of software, Opera, Pegasus, SAP, whatever it is, Zoho, whatever you want to use, there are more than enough clients out there for everyone. So obviously you can niche by software. It doesn't have to be industry based. You don't have to niche at all. You can be very, very broad niche. So I do predominantly service-based limited companies with transactions and with transactions in multi-currencies and across multiple accounts. So I tend to do Xero and have as much, again, comes down to destacking. I have some on Free Agent, I have some on Hammock, but I spend most of my day in Xero. And then you can start to build your app stack. So you know you love Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, whatever. What works really well with it. So you want something in your practice management suite. Ideally, you want to be connected up to your invoicing, the system you're using as well for your invoicing, so that you can get that invoicing and get your information out to your clients, and you can make sure everything's pulling in and out in the right way. But again, for client-facing software or apps that client works with, which ones work really well with whatever it is you're working? Because my whole practice is built around not having to key things in twice. So whatever you're using, you want to move your, you want to have something that seamlessly, you've got your accounting software as your one source of truth, and it's seamlessly moving to or in or out of other pieces. So that's one of the things where, and you want to work out whether what you've got is working for you, and what the features that you're missing or you really want, are they giving you extra? So for example, Xenon, I used to use Xavier Analytics, which was Dex Precision, and the one thing that I missed and lost when I moved to Xenon was the fact that Go Proposal and Xavier Analytics connected up to each other, so that they actually, I could see at a glance what those, what the transaction numbers were directly in Go Proposal as I was going through the things. And Socket will again connect with Xavier Analytics, funnily enough. But now Xenon's built some of that in, I can obviously do that. I can't do it directly in the pricing software, but I can do it within Xenon itself. So I'm not losing things. But look at what your other apps are in your stack and say, right, okay, what fits in really nicely. And so on the theme of not keying things in twice, I would always recommend that the next thing you add after your accounting software is an OCR capture of some sort. So I have been lucky enough to be working and consulting for Apron. I was actually introduced to them by the ICB about a year ago now, and I've been working behind the scenes and helping with various things on Apron capture. Now, you probably heard me say that I could not run my business without Dext, and I have been a Receipt Bank Dext user for almost, well, about 9 years. That will be coming to an end. Nearly all of my clients, the aim is to move them across to Apron capture, because it's quicker. So I would have said the reason I use Dext, and whether you're auto entry, HubDoc, QuickBooks capture thing, I can't remember what it's called, I would have said find whatever works for you. Again, HubDoc I always struggled with. and I thought Dex was best out there by far. Had everything in one place, could see everything, quick extraction. Apron is the quickest I have ever seen of anything. Literally like 90 seconds later, after you've taken the photo or emailed it in, it's already 90% extracted. And that's the thing, is you don't want to have to be waiting for the software to do something. If you can do something quicker than the software, but you're not, and the software's holding you up, then the software's not doing its job. This week I had a client that was a little bit further behind than I thought they were. They were on an annual VAT, and I picked it up, and I must have put like 400 items in this week into OCR. And you want something that's going to work with you. It's quite funny. I've got a client that's starting next month, and they use Beamworks, which is a US system, and it takes 24 hours to extract the data. And someone told me that if it takes 24 hours to extract the data, it's not OCR, it's someone in India typing it up. But I haven't mentioned that to them yet. But yeah, so getting that information in and out really quick. You obviously need to be able to review it, be able to close to it, to be able to make sure the VAT's right, to be able to make sure you've got your tracking if you're using tracking or departments or whatever it is that you're using, but do it in the easiest way possible. So make sure that you're able to really navigate and make the most out of your software, because that's one of the other things, is you using these pieces of software, you're paying for these pieces of software. For me, OCR is like an employee. I've put through so many items through it. But you need to make sure you're getting the most out of it from a cost basis as well, because these things do add up. You might have seen the other week I put my my list of top 5 costs of my business up on LinkedIn, and number 2 was software. And if you add it all together, well, 3 was software. I was number 1. My VA was number 2. Number 3 was software. But if you add it all together on all the different areas of software, it is an additional employee type of cost. So make sure you're getting the most out of it. But OCR would be the one I really recommend. And Apron Capture will be launching out to the general public. It's obviously in beta at the moment, but out to the general public at Accountex. So keep an eye on that one. As I say, you've then got, obviously, if you're using HubDocs, you've got that for free with Xero, but I'd say it's free for a reason. They're going to kill me for that. But it's about it's about what works for you. Auto entry again, and again with bank statement extractions, statement reconciliation, there's extra features in there in some of them, and other ones that have got features planned to be able to do that. So you can get that information. If you've got a set of bank statements, for example, Metro Bank doesn't work on open banking. I've got a client that can't work out how to download the CSV, so they send me a PDF each month, and we put that up into the statement extraction currently indexed, and within a couple of minutes I've got a fully formatted Xero CSV that I can download and upload. So there's bits around that. But equally, if you're asking clients for a lot of bank statements, another one that connects up to Client Engager is Analytics. And there's a couple of ones out there as well that will give you access to, your clients give you access to the bank, in that they can connect it up and you can easily download the documents there. So when you're asking for things at that time, at year end, or you just want to check them, and you know how I had one client who very kindly sent me all of her personal bank statements, but didn't send me any of the business ones. Those sort of things, having them connected up and having them all there and easily able to access again, if you've got a lot of clients, is worth it. But again, it's about what you do and how many clients you have, and whether it's going to be a benefit to you. And then you've got everything else that goes around with it. So you build your core stack. So what you want. So for me, Xero, Apron, Capture, Xenon, these are the ones that I use with every single client. But then you're what else do your clients need? And you'll find things that some need, others don't, or you'll find things that work for a majority of them, or it will depend on what you're offering. So if you're a payroll person, you might have your You might not be using Xero Payroll, you might be using Bright Pay, Key Pay, all sorts of other things, Employment Hero, all these kind of things. If you're a tax person, you might be using Tax Filer, Iris, CCH, whatever it is. But then there's the ones of, again, the value added services. So one of the big things is obviously payments in and out. So how are your clients getting paid? Can you help them speed up the speed of which they're getting paid? Are they suitable for something like Go Cardless or Stripe? Do they need a card machine, something like SumUp? Or are they, would Cresco work for them on the payments inside of things, having that open banking side of things? So that's again one way you can help your clients if you notice they've got slow payers or they've got things, and you can kind of have a discussion with them and say, right, okay, how do we help your cash flow? What can we implement that will make this easier for you? So I use Go Cardless in my own practice, obviously to collect the monthly direct debits. I've got a client that's actually a landscape gardener, and he does maintenance for various clients as well as bigger projects, and all of his maintenance clients he's got on Go Cardless. I've got a little printing client that has people that come in every so often and want to pay by card. So he's got a SumUp machine because that was the cheapest way and has the flexibility. So there's things around there around there that you can fit to your clients. Again, if they've got a online web sales, they're doing Shopify, Amazon, those kind of things, you've got A2X and Link My Books. So and Dex Commerce. So look at what your clients' needs are. And if you're niching, find the app stack that works really well with your niche. So if you're doing e-commerce, find whether you like A2X or Link My Books, work that out, work out which ones, Dex Commerce, which ones are going to work for your clients and in the best way and work for you in the best way. If you're offering payments and helping clients with supplier payments, you've obviously got the main Apron platform, the original Apron platform, I should say, not the main Apron platform, but the original Apron platform. I was originally told that Apron was going to stand for Accounts Payable Receivable On. That's what Bogdan told me on day one of the call. And then there's apparently like 6 different meanings to it, but you've got the ability to make those payments or set up those payments, I should say, with clients, then approving them. So you don't need bank access. You don't have that fraud risk. You're protected. Your clients have full visibility. They're the ones making the payments at the end of the day. Again, you've got Cresco embedded within Xero. You've got Telaroo and Modular. Some of them are, I mean, I did the comma accreditation, that's now been bought and actually embedded within something. Again, it's working out what works for you and your clients. If your clients are only making payroll payments, then Apron's payroll platform is free for 50 payments a month. So you've got to work out what the best pricing is for clients and what they need and what one works well for them. And the same with then the other side of that is debt collection. So Paycarden, Knowit, Chaser, Satago, do clients need help with their credit control, and what level of help do they need? So you need to work out all of these things that are going on in your clients' lives and what can you help them with. Most of us don't like credit control. I've got a lovely lady who really does, and I've been chatting to her this week, but most of us don't like credit control. But is there a way to make sure that they're getting paid? And that, again, you're not having to do that manually. There's a system connected up. It's sending statements. If you're using Xero, Statey is a brilliant one, really cheap. There's a free plan and a really cheap plan, can send automatic statements out every month to set clients. And then you can send manual ones at all sorts of different periods, aging, breakdown, 90 days, all sorts of things. So again, how can you help your clients get paid faster? I actually implemented that for a client last year and it really helped and increased. They haven't actually needed to go to the next level of debt collection yet, because actually just having those statements in there really helped. But look at what your work, what is out there and what works well for your clients. Some of the other ones, Chaser and Knowit, you can do some like credit control, credit checking, so clients can have a look at for a cost can have a look at whether their clients actually have a good credit rating or what the likelihood is. And pay harder and know it, you can also push that up the line to a debt collecting agency, because they're both backed by debt collecting agencies and they were designed by debt collecting agencies. So you can do your no win, no fee debt collection if it gets to that stage. But then you've got, again, your other apps in there that are specific to what your client needs and your client around there. So if they're on construction basis, or I would say a lot of project basis with freelancers, it doesn't necessarily need to be construction. You've got something like Next Minute. I've been working, so I've used Approval Max for 4 or 5 years. For the last 9 months, I have consulted and worked behind the scenes with them, and there's some really interesting things coming out for Approval Max at the moment. So if you've got clients that need bill to PO matching, budget checking, all those kind of, they've just rolled out this week the ability to send sales quotes out to clients with an approve button on it. If they've got internal teams that need approvals on them, anything kind of financial control based. So works well for bigger clients, but also charities, or equally if there's a couple of people in a team, it works really well if you've got. So again, Approval Max is a really good one, and that's why I've partnered with them to kind of help them as well, because I have used it in depth myself and seen what difference it can make. Audit trails, setting up new suppliers, all those kind of things. So all these bits. And then also if you're kind of level 4, or you're doing your cash flow and reporting side of things, you've got things like Futurely, Sift, Fathom, all these kind of things that give you that next level of being able to give clients information in graphs and charts and all those kind of ways that really work for you and work with your clients to give them management accounts and reporting in really nice packs, but equally bits they're going to understand. And additional to that is things like Swoop. So if your clients are looking at grants or funding or comparisons, one that disappeared and came back into the market again is Reducer. So if you've got clients and you want to compare electricity and phone bills and those kind of things, Swoop can do that and Reducer can do that. And again, a lot of these platforms, it's all about connecting them up onto your core stack so that you can kind of work out what you're doing. So work out what your base is. So your base Xero is your base QuickBooks, is your base Sage. Work out what your OCR is. And then work out what services you want to add to your clients. And as much as I would say it's great to go to all of these shows and see all the latest things, make sure they work for you. Make sure, don't jump at everything. It's really easy to jump at everything and go, bright new shiny thing, let's go to that. But make sure, do a little bit of digging, speak to people around, see whether they're in beta or have they got their flaws kicked out. What's going to work for you? I thought I'm moving away from Centre. I thought I had my practice management thing nailed. Really liked it. Was going to work with Xero. They forgot to mention it was a 5-user minimum. Check things like that. If you're a sole practitioner and they suddenly go, yeah, it's £35 a month, but it's a 5-user minimum, so it's not going to be £35 a month. So check what works for you, and as much as I'd say don't stick with something until you're sure that there's something better. It's a lot of hassle to move everything. So you don't want to be moving everything every 6 months, every year, whatever. If your system is outdated but working for you, stick with it. If you want to hold off 9 months to move to Apron Capture, or you're on HubDoc and you don't think you want to move to something more at this stage, that's absolutely fine. If whatever it is works for you and your clients, that's the most important thing at the end of the day. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just sit down and say, right, these are my clients. This is what I want to offer my clients. this is what I want my practice to look like, and then go and find the best way to help that. And sometimes you'll find an app because a client comes to you with a certain problem and you go searching for that app and you go and find out what's out there. That's how I found Next Minute. They were on Jobber and it didn't connect to the Xero anymore because it's now QuickBooks only. So they needed something else. So it's fine not to have an app in your stack because you've never come across that problem or you don't feel like you need it. But be aware, go and find out, come talk to people like me, come book a power hour or go on one of the webinars like this, or go and talk to someone or post on LinkedIn or a Facebook group or whatever it is and ask for advice and try it out. Because actually, as I say, I've been doing this for 13 years. It was all paper-based. I did actually paper ledgers for a client when I first started. That's how long ago it was and how quickly everything changes. So you just need to be confident that whatever system works for you, and you're not going to get left behind if you're not using the latest apps. Just work out where it all fits in with what you want to offer your client, because at the end of the day, your service to your client is the most important thing.
That's amazing. Thank you, Lara. That's what I was coming back to, really, that you said, you need to understand your clients, you need to find the best way to help them, but also to ask for help. So I think I wrote down 47 apps that you mentioned there. I want to bring up some other topics, to some other questions, really, because Helen Wright mentioned, where do you start? And I definitely think there's another webinar to do here. If you are just starting your practice, where do you begin with choosing your software?
I think that's the thing, is start with your main accounting software, because that will help define some of your apps, because you'll then start talking to people that are different users of different software. So if you're a Xero user, we might have some top apps that really work well with Xero. If you're a QuickBooks user, you're going to have some top apps that may work really well with QuickBooks, and some of them might overlap and some of them might be different. So work out which is your most favorite accounting software to work with and which one works well for you and your clients, and then start slowly, as I say, start with an OCR, but then start building things in around what your clients need. So you don't need to feel like day one, I need every app going, or I need a full app stack. Start, and again, even with the practice management side of things, if you want to start on Asana or an Excel spreadsheet, start there. And then as you start to feel like, actually, as I say, do it before you get to that stage. But if you feel like, oh, it's a little bit too much to manage, or I need more information, or actually I'm doing this for my client, then start adding them on gradually. You don't, because it's going to take you a little bit of time to get to know the software and get to trial it and get to understand all the features. And we said this off side before the call, but again, I wish some of the software providers would do a lot more of kind of best practice and how to get the most out of our software, because I think there is definitely, and training days and demos and all these kind of things. You can go on a demo, a lot of them will do demos, live demos, Q&A sessions. So have a play around with it. Give yourself a couple of months, I would say, to embed each software before moving on to the next one, so that you know kind of where the pitfalls are, where your gaps are. Because what you don't want to do is put in loads of software and then discover that you're actually duplicating everything, because that's just increasing your cost by not. If you've got an app that can do 3 or 4 different things, then you don't need another app.
Yes, I like what you said about layering them up. I think but using your accounting one as a foundation. I think it's also part of my role to say that we've got a lot of demos. We've got one coming up next week for Iris Elements Tax, which is the new tax filer. And then we've got Expert and Zen coming up next month as well. And then as part of the Bookkeepers Summit, the virtual Bookkeepers Summit later in the year, we have demos from all of them. And what's part on our virtual tech day, what's important about that is that they're demos for bookkeepers. And we know that obviously these are a lot driven by accountancy, but what we do, the way we work with software providers is to make sure that they really focus on what the bookkeepers need.
And I'd say in conjunction with that, go and look at the software accreditation reports because they're written by bookkeepers using the software. So if that would be one of my first places, book a demo and then go see if there's an accreditation report and read through, because that will give you a really in-depth deep dive into the pros and cons of the software.
I've got one more question for you. Before I do, I just wanted to ask people if there's anything we haven't mentioned that you use that we haven't covered. And it almost like a test to see if Lara knows it or not. The thing that I keep thinking about, Lara, is about integration. That you have a million, not a million, you have 47 different apps you're talking about here. How are they talking to each other? How do you avoid duplicating data sets? How do you avoid having to key in things in different places and make sure you're the most up-to-date data?
I would say that obviously the first thing is there an API? Is there a native integration? Because if you can pull information from one place to the other, then that's going to be your first thing of kind of, you've got it going into your OCR, it's coming into your accounting software, it's going out to your cash flow software, it's going out to your payment software. So make sure they're integrated. If you can't natively integrate, then you've got things like Zapier, Make, Integromat.
I'll write that one.
Yeah, I'll give you a few more. Or Geocon and things like that. So you can pull things in and out of places. And for a lot of these, you don't need to know how to code. They look really scary, but they're all based off the principle of kind of what's the trigger? So what happens that causes something else to happen? So you write it in plain English of, if this happens and it has these parameters, then I want that to happen. So there's other ways to connect pieces of software that don't automatically integrate. I know at the moment Client Engager aren't going to have a Zapier link because they're just building it way too quickly and they'd have to rebuild it all of the time. But Xero has Zapier links for various things to get information in to certain ways.
Yeah, Client Engager is an interesting one, isn't it? I think that what the challenge is not to feel overwhelmed by it, because your bookkeepers and your business owners, there's lots of things for you to consider that that don't even start, don't mention the word coding. That's kind of going to push us all over the edge.
No, that's beyond me. But I think that's the thing, is if you put time aside in the same way that we put time. So if you're going to Accountex or Fab or DAS or Inspire or Summit, whatever it is, someone said to me the other day, go with a plan. So go and say, right, okay, I'd really like to go and talk to these people, spend some proper time with them, and then review it, come away and say, right, did it actually do what I thought it was going to do? Does it solve the problem that I thought it was going to solve? Because essentially that's what we're trying to do with these things, is solve a problem. And whether that's solving a problem of I don't have enough hours in the day, or I need to make this more efficient, or I don't want to employ extra people, or I need my staff to have access to certain things, whatever that problem is, spend some time after you've been to a show or after you've done some demo and just kind of put a couple of hours aside and go, yeah, is that actually going to really solve the problem? And is the cost worth it for the problem it's going to solve as well? Because that's the other thing, is these things really soon start adding up. And if you're a small practice or just starting out, you can end up paying for everything and then going, eek, it's a bit much, and actually I'm not getting the benefit from it. So don't feel pressured into signing up to anything. And if something is working or something's changed and it doesn't work for you, don't feel pressured into feeling like you have to keep paying for it.
Yeah, and a lot of them do have free trials because they're cloud-based. A lot of them have free trials. That'd be interesting. Lara and I, both former users of Centre, will know that 5 years ago everyone was talking about, oh, it's in the cloud, but now you just assume that it is, don't you? So that's quite an interesting way things change. I'm looking at the comments. I think we'll have to go back through some of them. I'm conscious of the time, but just to say, yes, if software becomes the third biggest cost in your business, then of course you're going to want to spend the time investing in it from the start and having a real strategy around it, aren't you? That's big, important.
But equally, for me, where I don't want to grow a team, there's a benefit to that. But as Helen says, no, there is nothing wrong with starting on spreadsheets. If spreadsheets work for you, brilliant. But when you start to outgrow them, or you need more, or a client needs more, look at what's out there. So you don't have to invest in any of these things. But equally, if you're looking to grow or you're looking to change, and as I say, I don't want to build at this stage, I don't want to build a team. So I'm looking at software almost like an employee. What can the software do for me?
And you spend time managing that employee, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Just looking at some of the comments, and Jules doesn't know where to start, and it's that thing of it might be, Jules, that you ask some specific questions, and there's lots of different Facebook groups where, and obviously I'm going to say the ICB members group, but there's lots of different Facebook groups. Lara, you said you're available.
Yeah, I would say, and also things like start with your ICB network, so your branch, your ICB groups. If you're going to any of the events, come and say hi, come and talk to any of us. But equally, and all of the Facebook groups, LinkedIn, whatever you're on, but equally there's people like me and other people that you can kind of book one-to-one time with if you feel like you need that as well.
Two bits of software that I think a few people missed. One I wrote down was called AirPA, which what's that and how do you spell it?
AIRPA.
Okay.
But again, that's kind of the next add-on to a practice management suite. So again, that's when you get a bit bigger and you want to be able to see everything in one place and access various things in one place.
Okay. And then the other thing was the little triangle, the 8-sided
Timula.
Timula. Okay, I'm writing that one down, everybody.
It sits on my desk, and I color code it, and you can have it for calls and emails. You can choose basically what your 8 sides are, but for me it's different types of clients, and I flip it over each time I change clients.
Okay, so I'm going to draw that to a close now. This has been really, Laura, I just can't thank you enough. That's been amazing. It's been beyond my wildest dreams, and I've learned so much, and I know everyone else has as well. I think we will look again about doing something around setting up. So I'm going to write up my little list now and send out the details. But we're really grateful for you sending it to spending the time just explaining everything that's in your massive brain. And thank you very much. And also just everybody look at the ICB website for all the events and all the different webinars we've got coming up, because there's loads of dedicated information for you there as well. But thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a good day.
Yep, thank you.
Bye.